The holy grail of dropshipping is finding something high ticket, something for well over $1,000 that fits in a little box that you can ship UPS or postal service. And I think I found that product today.
Fuck yeah. What do you got?
As you know, I have a business where we sell air purifiers. And when John was here in America, I said, John, I've got a bunch of ideas that I think could go along with this store, but I've never ran into any of them. I asked John to sit down with me, and we walked through a bunch of these, and we were like, this needs to be an episode, because some of these are products I've literally never heard of. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to pronounce them right, but I think I stumbled onto something cool. I don't know. What I stumbled into is sensors. All sorts of different industrial sensors. Have you ever ran into anyone selling them?
I ran into somebody once who was selling, like, kind of in this space. I mean, the answer is no, really, but, like, I did know some people who are selling some of the kind of weather-related sensors. And a lot of these sensors have weird and wacky names, right? So one that I've seen before is penetrometers. And they're sensors that sense solar radiation, which in a whole bunch of different industries, it's important for them to know how much solar radiation is hitting the Earth's surface at any point in time. And there are little sensors that test just for that, and they can be over $1,000. Right, and they're small, like you say, like they look like little alien mothership kind of things, right? They're like literally like this big or something. And to Ben's point, they ship in a small box. I'm assuming the shipping on them costs next to nothing. And yeah, there's definitely lower ticket versions of them, like the crappy AliExpress ones, which I want to say probably don't even work. But then there's like ones by the actual big brand names in the space. I think one of them is like Davis Instruments or something like that. Or Davies Instruments or something like that. Like they can be well over $1,000. And so there's also other sensors like lightning detectors that tell like farmers and other people who work, or like linesmen and stuff like that, oh, there's lightning around, right? Or swimming pools use these, right? You know, every time my kids go to the swimming pool, like the public swimming pool, they're in swim club and stuff. If there's storms around and lightning, they have to get everyone out of the pool. Right? Because obviously if lightning hits the pool and zaps 50 kids at once, then they're going to be sued a lot. Right? And so, there's little instruments that detect lightning. There's sensors, right? And so I've seen people selling that stuff, but you stumbled onto a whole bunch of other things when we were talking there. And no, I don't think I've ever heard anybody selling this stuff for sure.
Well, we've sounded ignorant in the past. We're definitely going to sound ignorant today because I don't know what any of these do. I know some of this stuff just from selling air purifiers, right? CO2 is something that we should all be familiar with what CO2 is. And then VOCs are like volatile compounds that, if you paint your house and your house stinks for a while, right? Those are VOCs. When you buy a new couch or a new mattress or a lot of things, it's kind of off-gassing stuff. Those are VOCs, right? And so we stumble into that selling air purifiers of people who have concerns over mold or VOCs or honestly tons of other stuff. And probably we could do a whole episode on the crazy stuff people call in that they're concerned about. But it made me think through, okay, if someone's concerned about this problem, there's got to be a sensor for it, right? So that's where I started my journey, right? I'll share a window. I'm going to start with industrial VOCs here. This is where I started my journey. It was just like, okay, is there an industrial VOC sensor? If you even like take off industrial, I think there's 4,400 searches a month. But again, to your point, right, there's $4 items all the way up to thousands and $1,000 items, right? Mm-hmm. There's kind of this mid-ticket land as well of these like handheld sensors that I'm assuming are, HVAC people or things like that are coming into your house, or construction workers of some sort, or safety workers, or maybe it's the city when they're doing tests or something like that. They're coming in there. This is kind of where I started, but the prices were so all over the place, I didn't even know where to begin, right? And I bet there's someone listening to this who's in our course or who has followed our advice, who has done the same research, where they've stumbled in and they're like, well, this doesn't fit the criteria, right? What's our criteria here? Over $1,000. This doesn't fit that, right? Well, all right. So these are in that no man's land that BK always talks about, that like maybe you'll sell a lot of these, but it'll be difficult to make any margin on them. And then you'll stumble into products, which I'm actually struggling to pull up on the screen at the moment, but there are industrial versions of these that are, thousands of dollars. And so how do you square that circle and say, this is indeed somewhere I want to be or somewhere I don't want to be? And I'm happy to show you some of the other things I stumbled into if you want to. I'll go to another one here. So this is like colepalmer.com. They have all sorts of stuff, right? So if you look at this indoor air quality monitor, that's $7,500. This is like a dust real-time monitor at $5,500. indoor air quality again here in that handheld range. This is going to ship in a tiny box and $820 to $3,000. How do you even begin to research something like this and decide if it's good or not, John?
I guess when you're seeing like a lot of different and varied pricing, and you're kind of unclear about whether it's actually the right thing. I mean, you have to zoom down to the higher ticket products, obviously. To me, I'm kind of trying to work out, like, is there enough there for me to work with? And so oftentimes you'll find, like, the difference in pricing is just down to the use case, right? So, like, if you look at something like oxygen sensors, and now all cars, or most cars at least, have an oxygen sensor in them. It's a small thing, plugs into into the air intake or whatever on the car, and usually they're like nothing, $30, $60 or something like that. But then there's also other products that share the same name, like oxygen sensor, which are like a box this big, and they're used on industrial machines and in industrial settings. And I can find ones of those that are $3,500, right? Both are called an oxygen sensor. And so when you go and Google them, you're going to be like, whoa, are these the same thing? Are they different things? So what I'm doing there is like, okay, so I'm asking myself, what's the difference between them? I can see there's ones that are sold by car places, and I can see there's these ones that are sold by these big industrial sort of supply businesses. All right, I'm going to focus on them. How many brands or manufacturers or suppliers of those can I see for the big ones? And that's going to be kind of my deciding point. If I can see enough brands or suppliers, noting here as well that you have to remember there's a whole bunch of different sensors, right? So like I've got a website open in front of me, and I can see there's ammonium sensors, pH and ORP sensors, dissolved oxygen sensors, nitrate sensors, oil and water sensors, conductivity sensors, turbidity sensors. Like, there's a lot here, right? Now, you don't have to find tons of supplies for every single one of those, right? Because you would put all of those on the same site. Impeller flow sensors. I don't know what any of these things do, right? I've got to say while I'm saying all these words. But there's high ticket versions of all of these products. And so really, to me, if I've got that question of, is there enough products that are high ticket, or there's all these low ticket ones, do I need to worry about that? I'd be using the supplier sort of research part as my deciding factor. Like, can I see that there's enough brands and suppliers to work with of just the high ticket ones? And if the answer is yes, then I would be like, yeah, great, let's do it. Because the price point's right. You don't have to worry about the shipping at all, because there is not a single one of these products I've seen that is large. So that's just like a non-issue at all. It's pretty niche. There's going to be some very specific businesses and whatnot that use these things, so that they're easily identifiable who they are. There's definitely businesses that use multiple of these things, for sure. So like laboratories, for example, will use multiple of the same things. In fact, there's even products that it's an in-between product, which is like a sensor, kind of like lets you input all of your sensors into the same thing, and it manages them all. And that's a product in and of itself, and you could sell that stuff too, right? And so to me, the only real question here is there actually enough brands that make these things? Or manufacturers or whatever. If I could tick that box, then that would be the biggest deciding factor for me with these products, for sure.
For me, I just enjoy going down the rabbit hole and not loving or hating it. Like, I just want to keep going for a while, right? Like, as you're talking, I'm already over here looking at, forgive me, I could get very childish with the name of this penetrometer, but I don't know what that is. Like, often you're like, you can learn a business and then fall in love with the business. And I'm very much, you should be maybe not passionate about it, but at least knowledgeable in the business. There's no chance I could run ads for this, and I could show up for a penetrometer. I don't know how to say that word. I don't even know what it is, right? Do you know what this is?
Yeah. So this will tell you how much force it takes for a material to be penetrated. That's what it's testing. So it's like a sharp point that pushes down into something, and the little scale there, the needle goes up with pounds of force.
And what would you use this for, do you think?
Well, if a company's bringing out a new product and they want to test the hardness of their product, like how easy is something going to be broken, right? Okay. Like the door of a car, they're going to test how much force with something hitting it is it going to penetrate the skin of the car, for example. Any product could potentially use that,
I could have used AI and got that answer too, John. I know what you're doing over. He's got ChatGPT in another window, folks. All right, here's another one. Like, again, I go back to the air quality because again, that's just the industry that I understand, right? Yep. So I'm liking a lot of this stuff. You look at that, it's $1,000. You look at that, it's $900. There's a lot of this handheld stuff that's in that $1,000 to $2,000 range that it's clearly, sold a lot of. This site would be like huge inspiration for me if I was researching this niche wholeheartedly. I just think, my only question is like, are they in too many places where they're serving an entire industry of a lot of different avatars, and like you could probably pick 4 or 5 of these, and like you said, the laboratory folks, could you go there? Could you go more on the HVAC side of things? Could you go on more of the indoor air quality? Could you go more on the water side of things? But again, I keep running into products like peristaltic pumps. Look at the price tags on these things, John, and they're they fit in your hands. Yep. It just kind of blows my mind what's out there when you just take the time to go down rabbit holes. And I stumbled into this on accident, right? And I think you pulled up this turbidity bypass sensor you'd mentioned earlier. Again, I couldn't even tell you what this does, but it's wild to me. You get a lot of people who come into our course. A lot of them have similar ideas when they first start. And I tell you to go deeper. This is what I mean when I tell people to go deeper. It's just like, I wouldn't have stumbled on this other than I, randomly went down a rabbit hole of sensors and stumbled onto all sorts of different products. So I don't even know how to judge this one, John, because there's so many different, I think, little avatars in here. And I genuinely don't know, is this an industry where it's like, oh, there's only 2 brands. They make all the stuff and then no one sells them except these 2 brands? You wouldn't know that until you dug deeper.
Yeah, I'm going to say because there's a wide range of products, and you don't need like tons of brands for every type of product. Like if you average like 3 to 5 for each of your different types of sensors, because there'll be some brands that make 5 different sensors, and there'll be another brand that makes some of those, but then an additional 2 types of sensors that the first one didn't make. Like I think you could get away with this one with actually, like, you don't need 30 brands or something like that for all of the products. You just need like 5 for each type of product. And I think you'd be fine if you were able to get those on board. So to me, at the first look, I'd say it checks out. Happy to be proved wrong by somebody on this one, but I don't see any problem with it for me. So I'd be giving it a thumbs up for this one from me for sure. Like there's just such a broad range of products as well. Like you say, you could go more niche, but if that didn't work out, you could also go much broader. And this starts to cross into a whole bunch of other B2B niches as well, like lab equipment, and that's a monster in and of itself. I think we've talked about that one before on the show, and I have actually seen some people trying to give that a go at the moment, and they look promising. There's a lot of ideas out there still. It just goes to show, like literally, I've never seen anybody selling these things, and I've been talking to people about selling things online for 12 years. Nearly, and I haven't seen it. Like this is at this point, from a dropshipping perspective, fairly untouched. So people who worry about out there, I know people listening, they're watching, they're thinking, oh, dropshipping's too saturated. Like, there's no way for me to get started. Everybody's already selling everything. No, they're not. Here's evidence of that. Direct evidence of that. I think the other thing that holds people back from this type of niche is they sit there and go, well, I don't know what those things do, so I have no business selling them. Like, people get put off by perceived complexity and technicality of some products in the B2B space. And I kind of get that it might not be your thing naturally, but once again, I'd say that you're at a huge risk of overthinking things. I've met a lot of our students who knew nothing about the products they're selling, and they had technical nature to them, and they sold them just fine. Like, I mean, well, you and I are partners with somebody who's in a niche like that. Like fairly technical products. They don't use them in their day-to-day work or anything like that, and yet they're selling them online, and they're offering great service to their customers, and it works. It can work. So I would say if you're listening and you're thinking, hey, I should take Ben and John and Ben's advice and give this one a crack, like don't feel put off by that. That's a hurdle you can cross very easily.
Yeah, we had a student on one of our group calls. So if you're part of our community, we have a paid Slack community, a private community for people in our course. They had mentioned that someone called and he felt like they kind of treated him poorly because he didn't know. And I was like, I've been there. I when I sold 3D printers, I didn't know anything about it. I would literally tell them, hey, that's Jim. He's on lunch. Let me give you a call back. And I'd get off the phone and I'd go Google the answer, and then I'd call the person back. It's like, that's what you got to do in the beginning. I don't know. Don't be afraid to look stupid. You're probably going to look stupid in a lot of other places in life. All right. I got one more thing for you, John, that I threw on the end here. And I know this is Probably more American related, because I think you said this was banned now in Australia, but it is vape detectors. I don't even know how I landed on this. It was down the CO2 sensor rabbit hole, but I landed on vape detectors. Vape detectors for schools, I believe, had quite a bit of volume, if I remember correct. I could be wrong on that. There's 3,000 a month. Lots of schools out there looking for vape detectors to put in their bathrooms. Yeah. I'm sure there are quite a few other places, workplaces, things like that. Now, again, they're in that, not super great range. This 500 is surely not where we want to be. This 1,001 certainly is. What do you think of this idea?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the initial price point on them doesn't look great. I mean, I know there's one there that's like $900 per unit. I mean, there's a couple there actually that are at that point. But you have to think about, like, this reminds me of selling like lights for people's homes, right? I mean, a lot of the products I sold back when I was doing that were in this price point, like maybe $300-400 per unit. Something like that. So not what we would call high ticket, but the reality is, like, some of those products I was selling like 20 at a time to a restaurant, for example. And they would have one, like these wall lights. They would be all around the walls of the whole restaurant. So it was like $300 times 20. That is a high ticket order, and they weren't big products. They were in little boxes like this big, right? And so that shipping on 20 units even wasn't that much. And so when you think about vape sensors, obviously the question is not, like, is the price of an individual unit right? Because you're rarely going to be selling an individual unit. You have to, if you're looking at a product and the price is a bit lower, always ask yourself the question, is there a scenario where I can sell 10 of those? Is there a scenario where I could sell 100 of those? It brings to mind one of our coaches in the program, Carla. She for a long time was the person who I'd heard who had the biggest single order through a high ticket dropshipping business. It was over $100,000. It was I can't remember. She could probably correct me. 120, 140, something thousand. One order, something like that. And it was for I think over 100 products, right? So she had these TPs for kids, and it was a charity that was buying them. Individually, these products were not high ticket products. They were almost low ticket products. But this person literally wanted to buy like a shipping container's worth or something like that. And so, not selling just one of them, she actually had to go and get them manufactured because her supply didn't even have enough of them to fulfill the order. But there are definitely products out there where volume is common in individual orders, and they kind of, you can kind of go against the rules of high ticket drop shipping with those products a little bit, and it can work out well for you. So vape sensors to me would be that. Like, if a school wants vape sensors for every bathroom, how many bathrooms do they have? Right? They probably they might put more than one per bathroom, multiply things up, and, that they can work out pretty good.
Yeah. Imagine it, even beyond schools, possibly Airbnbs, rental properties, hotels. Again, all of these places aren't going to be buying one. They're not going to buy one and go, that's good enough. Well, they're going to want to, buy a bunch of these. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by this one. There's not a lot of suppliers, like less than you would think on this. This one kind of led me more towards an interesting idea, probably a real opportunity to, can't be that hard to go get one of these made, and you just have your own brand of this, or white label this and do better marketing than what currently exists. That's kind of where I leaned on this one, but I thought I'd throw it in on the end because I stumbled into it and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. You could, they would not cost a lot to manufacture.
All right, so typically when we do these, John, we have a bunch of people who sign up for the course, and then they send in, I want to do sensors. So will you say that will happen from this one or not happen from this one?
Look, there has been a few things we've done on the show. The flow-on effect is a little bit longer, I think, but there is a few things we've said on the show in the last 12 months, let's say, and it's kind of a lot of people have kind of commercial cleaning has been one. That I've noticed, yep. Which you can look back and see we did that episode some time ago, and I think there's certainly been an increase in people having a crack at that niche for sure. Luckily, it is a big niche, definitely, and so if this piques your interest, get in there right now.
Well, where could somebody go if this was their passion, John? Where could somebody go to find out what they should sell?
We've got Passion's Profit Blueprint. If you want to work out what's the right thing for you to sell. You want to work out how to identify the right thing for you to sell. We got a $27 course. It's a short course. You could literally do it in one afternoon and come out the other end with a verified idea of what products and niche you should build a high ticket dropshipping business around. Just head over to dropshipbreakthru.com/passion and you can grab that. It's just $27. It's all content taken from our much larger course. And like I said, you also get access to our niche verification service. So our team will vet all of your ideas for you and tell you if you're good to go or not.